Eventually, I'm going to find a guy. And then who knows what after that.
The storm that no one expected finally came crashing down on the Brown family. And this time, it wasn't hidden behind TLC editing or buried in whispers. It was raw, public, and devastating. The once untouchable facade of Kody Brown's empire had shattered completely, and the fallout landed squarely on Robyn and her children. Once she was the crown jewel in Kody's chaotic kingdom, the one with the biggest house, the designer handbags, the love and protection she flaunted openly while the other wives stood in the shadows. But in a cruel twist of fate, she now found herself standing on the curb with tears streaking her face, clutching a cardboard box stuffed with her children's belongings, while bank officers taped a foreclosure notice to her front door. The cameras didn't miss it, the neighbors didn't ignore it, and the internet certainly didn't forgive it. It began quietly, like a shift in the air. In Flagstaff, people noticed the first signs. The polished luxury SUVs that once gleamed in Robyn's driveway were gone. The curtains in her mansion were shut tight, the lights never flickered on, and Kody himself seemed to have disappeared. At first, it was only gossip, little murmurs in town. But then the truth spilled out like a tidal wave. Everything Kody owned had been swallowed by the bank. The lavish Flagstaff estate that Robyn once bragged about was no longer hers. The fantasy she built had evaporated in front of the nation. On the sidewalk, Robyn begged and pleaded, clutching her children as officers carried out boxes. She sobbed that this couldn't be real, that her kids didn't deserve this. But reality was merciless. The bank didn't care. And neither did a large portion of the viewers who had watched for years as Robyn basked in her favored wife status, while Christine and Janelle's kids struggled for scraps of their father's time and affection. The backlash was instant and brutal. Social media lit up with venom, one post capturing the sentiment best. Robyn thought she won. Now she finally knows what it feels like to be the last one on a sinking ship. The woman who once enjoyed Kody's complete adoration, expensive furniture, and shiny trinkets suddenly had nothing left. The bank stripped away everything. The cars, the electronics, even sentimental Christmas decorations were tossed into moving trucks. One witness recalled her sobbing over a tree skirt, clinging to it as though it were her lifeline. Her children, Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, Solomon, and Ariella, stood silent and stunned in the driveway. Not a single word left their lips, as strangers dismantled their home piece by piece. And still, one question rang out louder than any other. Where was Kody Brown? As Robyn fell apart, Kody wasn't there to pick up the pieces. He wasn't even in town. Reports claim he had slipped away to a friend's ranch in southern Arizona, far from the chaos. And when word spread that he'd left Robyn to face the humiliation alone, the betrayal cut even deeper. Then came the leaked voicemail. His voice, cold and frustrated, spilled into the public. I gave you everything, and now it's gone. Maybe if you hadn't insisted on that Flagstaff house. The recording cut off mid-rant, but the damage was done. Robyn's greatest defender had officially turned his blame on her. For the first time, Robyn's children broke their silence. Aurora went live on Instagram, her voice trembling as she fought back tears. People think we're spoiled. We're not. We were just trying to survive. We didn't ask to be favored. We didn't ask for this. Dayton added his own painful confession. All I ever wanted was peace. Now I'm homeless with my siblings. The internet softened briefly. For the children, sympathy rose for the innocent ones caught in the wreckage, and fundraising drives popped up online, donations flowing in from strangers touched by their pain. But the same kindness wasn't extended to Robyn. For her, the internet had only one word: karma. Meanwhile, the other wives wasted no time in sharing their thoughts. Janelle, always grounded in reality, admitted during a tell-all segment that she had seen this collapse coming for years. She claimed she begged Kody to prepare, to organize, to think about the future, but he ignored her. Christine, now blissfully remarried to David Woolley, didn't hold back either. Her words cut like a knife. You favored one wife, neglected your other children, and now even that wife has no home. What does that say about your leadership, Kody? And in a twist no one saw coming, Christine and David opened their doors, but only to Robyn's children. Christine reportedly made it clear, "We'll help the kids, but Robyn, she has to face her own decisions." Even Meri, who had been keeping her distance, couldn't resist adding her own subtle strike. She posted cryptically on Instagram, "Sometimes the tower has to fall before the truth comes out." Fans instantly understood it as a jab at Robyn. Later, Meri confirmed it in a podcast, admitting, "I was made to feel less than." Now, the one who was always treated as more is finally experiencing what the rest of us lived with. Behind the scenes, TLC scrambled in panic. Season 19 had already been centered on tragedy with Garrison's death and the family's fractured relationships, but now they had an entirely new storyline: Robyn Brown, homeless and broken. Cameras followed her into a low-budget motel, capturing raw footage of her crying children clinging to her while she sobbed into her hands. Between gasps, she looked into the lens and said, "I can't believe this is happening on camera, but maybe now people will finally see I'm not the villain. I'm a victim too." From adored to abandoned, Robyn's fall was unlike anything Sister Wives fans had ever seen. The public sympathy, however, remained divided. While 80% admitted to feeling deeply for her children, only a fraction had any left for Robyn herself. She had been the queen for so long, but now she was simply another casualty of Kody's collapse. The moment that sealed it came in an unplanned showdown. Kody and Robyn were spotted in a public park away from TLC's cameras, though somehow, audio leaked to the public. Robyn's voice was ragged, furious as she cried, "You told me we were safe! You promised this was our home!" Kody's reply was bitter, his tone weary. "You wanted the biggest house, the best of everything. I gave it to you. And now we've lost it all." Robyn screamed back that he was blaming her, and Kody whispered words that sent chills through fans who heard them. "You always wanted more, and I let you." The breakdown of their marriage became undeniable, and the devastation only worsened when Aurora, overwhelmed by fear and instability, collapsed during a panic attack at the motel. Witnesses said she fainted while trying to book rooms for her siblings, leaving Robyn hysterical, screaming in a hospital waiting room, shouting that all of this was Kody's fault. Doctors prescribed therapy for the children, urging they be moved to a safer, quieter environment before the trauma consumed them completely. As donations grew online, a shocking proposal surfaced. Christine and David Woolley suggested publicly that they could take in Solomon and Ariella permanently. They're still young. They need love, stability, and structure. We can give them that, David said. Robyn's fury was explosive. "You want to raise my children after stealing my husband?" She reportedly spat at Christine, but Christine's reply was sharp and cold, the kind of truth that cut through every illusion. "You didn't just lose your husband, Robyn. You lost your reality."
You find higher love, and then everybody just slaps you down for it. I'll tell you what, there's a divine aspect about my relationship with Robyn.
So far, Robyn has been staying in a temporary apartment provided by TLC solely for filming. It's a far cry from the luxurious mansion she once flaunted as her own, but some would say this reality check was long overdue. Away from the cameras, whispers suggest that Robyn is considering writing a memoir with the working title, "The Truth Behind the Tears: My Life as the Last Sister Wife." Others claim she's secretly pushing for a spin-off, but TLC isn't quick to hand out lifelines. Anymore, not when viewer backlash against her runs this deep. And Kody? His entire world has fallen apart. He and Robyn haven't been seen together in weeks, their relationship clinging to life support. Once the symbolic face of polygamy in America, Kody Brown has now become its cautionary tale. Loyalists are demanding TLC cancel Sister Wives altogether, their petitions plastered with brutal lines like, "He failed as a husband, a father, and a leader." One particularly merciless tweet summed it up. "He broke everyone, including himself." Kody now scrambles to survive as an independent consultant while living in a rented RV on the edge of Arizona. From managing 4 households to managing nothing, his empire has turned to rubble. Meanwhile, Janelle, Christine, and Meri have moved forward. Their children are thriving, their businesses are steady, and their lives are finally free from the chaos they once endured. But Robyn sits alone in motel lobbies, endlessly scrolling through social media, reading hateful comments, and wondering how everything crumbled. Her children sleep restlessly on pull-out couches, their dreams clouded with doubt. The woman who once stood at the very center of the Brown family is now reduced to nothing more than a survivor of Kody's collapsed kingdom. But this isn't just a story of failed polygamy. It's a story of power, favoritism, denial, and the heavy price of misplaced loyalty. Robyn thought she had won, that she was the chosen one, but in the end, she lost it all. And as her children quietly ask why they can't return home, she's left to face the cruel truth. Favoritism always comes with a cost, especially when built on broken promises and silent resentment. When the money dries up and the husband walks away, all that's left is reality. And the reality is this: no woman, not even the last wife standing, should end up without a place to call home. And then came the morning that shocked everyone. A frigid day in Flagstaff when Janelle Brown opened her door to find Kody standing there, looking nothing like the confident man America had watched for more than a decade. His hair was wild, his eyes sunken, and in his hands, a battered duffel bag and a folder stuffed with worn papers. Gone was the charismatic patriarch. What stood before Janelle was a man teetering on the edge of ruin. "Janelle," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Can I talk to you?" But Janelle didn't flinch. She didn't smile. She simply wrapped her sweater tighter, her expression cold. Months had passed since their last conversation, the one where she gave him an ultimatum: grow up or stay out of her life. Now here he was, begging for help. His words cracked as he admitted, "I need help." His world had completely imploded. He'd lost the Flagstaff home to foreclosure. Coyote Pass was repossessed. Legal fees from inheritance battles left him, drowning in debt. The man who once ran a household empire had funneled nearly everything into Robyn's name, and now he was left with nothing. No assets, no house, no family to lean on. And when the banks came calling, they didn't knock politely. They stormed in. In desperation, Kody turned to the one woman he thought might still care: Janelle. She had always been the practical one, the steady hand in the storm. She had run the family's taxes, managed her own businesses, and chosen a simpler life in an RV by design, not by necessity. When she left Kody, she didn't just leave a marriage, she embraced independence. She streamlined her life, built stability, and never wasted a dime. She wasn't rich, but she was strong. And that strength was exactly what Kody needed now. But Janelle didn't waver. She reminded him, "You spent 10 years putting Robyn first. You made my kids feel invisible. You silenced me every time I spoke. And now you want my help?" Kody's voice cracked as he begged for even the smallest chance. "I just need somewhere to stay, a little time. Please." But Janelle's response was ice cold. "This is my home. I built this life without you. Don't try to force yourself back into it now." What started as a tense exchange quickly erupted into a screaming match, one that TLC cameras caught for the upcoming season. Janelle shouted, "You chose this, Kody. You married Robyn legally, funneled everything into her, and let the rest of us fall apart." Kody shot back, "I gave everything to this family. Robyn was the only one who stood by me." Janelle's bitter laugh cut him deeper than any words. "No, Kody. She only told you what you wanted to hear." And then, in a shocking moment, Kody fell to his knees. "I'm losing everything, my wives, my kids, my house. I don't even know who I am anymore." Tears filled Janelle's eyes, but her resolve never broke. "Then maybe it's time you find out who you really are," she whispered. "But don't drag us down with you." Her words cut through years of silence. Janelle reminded him of every moment her children cried for his attention, of every time he made them feel unworthy. Kody tried to plead, insisting, "I'm here now. I can make it right." But Janelle's reply was final. "Too late. They needed you then, not now." Later, in a confessional, Janelle finally voiced the truth she had carried for years. "Kody thinks a speech can fix everything, but some wounds go too deep, and I won't let him hurt us again." Meri sat in that confessional chair, her eyes heavy with memories that seemed to burn right through her chest. She leaned forward slightly, her voice trembling, but determined. She finally admitted what fans had whispered for years, that her marriage had been nothing but smoke and mirrors, a shadow of what it once pretended to be. She said she held on far longer than she should have, not out of love anymore, but out of fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of being cast aside like someone disposable. And as she spoke those words, the raw truth cut through every illusion. Meri had been living in silence, swallowing her pain while pretending that she still had a seat at the family's table, when in reality, that chair had been empty for a very long time. Tears welled in her eyes as she recounted the emotional torture of trying to prove her worth, of begging for crumbs of affection from a man who had already given his entire heart to someone else. She admitted that she used to convince herself she was strong enough to handle it, that maybe if she just held on a little longer, Kody would turn back and see her again. But the years piled up, and the silence grew louder, and one day she realized she wasn't waiting for love anymore. She was waiting for permission to walk away. And that permission never came. So she stayed, in a prison built of loyalty, of faith, and of a love story that had long been rewritten without her name in it. The camera lingered on her face as she said the words that shook viewers to their core. I was invisible. I was there, but I wasn't seen. I was married, but I wasn't loved. It was an admission that cracked open the very foundation of the Brown family narrative. For years, fans watched Meri as the dutiful wife, the peacemaker, the one who absorbed every blow without ever striking back. But in that moment, her voice carried power, the kind of power that comes only after surviving years of quiet devastation. She had nothing left to lose, and in that vulnerability, she found her strength. And then she revealed the part that made even the most hardened critics sit up and listen. She confessed that she had stayed quiet not because she wanted to, but because she had been conditioned to believe her silence protected the family. That if she dared to speak, the fragile unity they pretended to have would shatter for good. But the irony was cruel. Her silence didn't save the family. It destroyed her instead. And as she wiped away a tear, she admitted something even more heartbreaking. She wasn't sure if she even recognized herself anymore. The woman who once had dreams, who once had hope, had disappeared somewhere in the long shadow of Kody's indifference. By the end of her confession, there was no anger left in her voice, only resolve. She said she was done apologizing for existing, done fighting for a man who had already chosen someone else, and done waiting for validation that would never come. Her silence had been her prison, but her voice, that was her freedom. And with that final statement, Meri didn't just close the door on her marriage. She slammed it shut, leaving nothing but the echo of her truth ringing in the air.